Hello and welcome to the 2014 Wisconsin Regional Championship. My name is Kenny Wisdom, and I'm here with David Reichenberger.
Hello!
And today we're going to be watching Kyle Sucevich versus Trenton, Philippini. Kyle playing a Darkrai, Yveltal, Garbodor deck. I assume there's Darkrai in it at the very least. And Trenton is playing a Big Basics deck that features Kyurem EX. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't be alarmed. This is the first round we're going to feature. So the playlist is not messed up. We just had a couple technical issues at the beginning of the day, but we should be good from here on out. We have 8 rounds of Swiss. We have 5 more rounds of Swiss after this, as well as a top 8 tomorrow. So what do you think of the Big Basics deck? Is pretty unknown. You know, we're gonna have to see what happens there. We see Trenton attached to DCE that Kyle immediately hands hammered. But what do you think of the Yveltal Garbodor type deck, David?
I think it's definitely a strong contender. Obviously, it's a top-tier deck. It'll be played frequently in these larger tournaments, and it's consistent enough that it should do well. Kyle's list is most likely fairly standard. Might have a couple tricks up his sleeve because he is Kyle Sucevich. But otherwise, I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, if you don't know, there's not much we can really say about Kyle. He's a former national champion. He's top 4 at nationals 3 times, I believe now. One of the best players of all time, for sure. And I don't know how close he is to his invite right now. I'm pretty sure he does not have it, but I'm not sure what kind of finish he needs at his event there, at this event today. Trenton is an unknown to me. Do you recognize that name?
I do not.
Yeah, so Trenton, maybe a smaller player he's probably a little anxious being paired against Puka, but we'll see what happens here. Kyle gets a pretty aggressive start. His Yveltal is poisoned, but nothing bad is really happening there. There's no Verblink City in play. And again, that enhanced hammer on DCE did set Trenton back a turn. You know, the thing about these Big Basics decks is that they're very aggressive and very linear, so when you can disrupt their energy or disrupt their game plan in general like that, it can be pretty hard for them. I don't think that Garbodor is going to be too necessary here, though. I'm not sure what Big Basics really have super relevant abilities. Obviously, Mewtwo and Kyurem that we see have none, and we see that
Garbodor.
Yeah, we see Trenton discard a Trebuchet of his own, which means that Garbodor will probably have no effect here. So Kyle will probably now just not even worry about setting that up and just focus on doing his own thing.
Well, what's nice about this, at least for Kyle, is that he's already got the Trebuchet out on the field. He's kind of committed to getting out a Garbodor just to have the most HP on that basic. But setting up the strategy for himself, he's making the Trubbish and Garbodor in Trenton's deck virtually useless. Those are dead cards, and they'll just fill his hand.
Definitely, and Kyle himself, like you said, he already has a Trubbish out. He already has the Float Stone on it. He might as well go ahead and evolve to the Garbodor, but I think that in Game 2 we'll definitely see both Kyle and Trenton just discard all of their Trubbishes and Garbodors and use them as resources to just get out of their deck immediately, because they'll pretty much have no effect. And even for Kyle, actually, you know, Kyle might... I don't think Kyle will even set up the Garbodor at this point, because he has Boofer, and there's he has Boofer, and if he plays Darkrai, he has Dark Cloak. Like, he has a few small reasons to want to keep a Garbodor, or to keep a Trubbish up instead of a Garbodor. And we see Kyle attach a DCE, Y-Cyclone, that Kyurem, and okay, I thought Trenton's hand was dead, but I think he top decked a Rainbow Energy and only had a Skyla in his hand. So he's gonna go ahead and Skyla for a Juniper. I assume drop that Rainbow somewhere and then not really have anything, unfortunately.
Definitely showing the weakness in his hand.
Definitely, and his board state isn't all that better, unfortunately. I would like to see him attach that Rainbow, if that's what he drew indeed. And the bad thing here too is that Kyle is sort of pressured in a way, because he is taking damage off that poison. You see he's at 110 now, but without Trenton having a way to attack, Kyle can just sit there for so many more turns and just really kind of keep Y-cycloning, set up his board more if he wants to, and it's just, yeah, and he's just going to go ahead. And he's at 120 now, but he does take 2 prizes. And Kyle's Yveltal will get knocked out here.
Is that 60 damage on the Mewtwo?
Yes. And there's a Hypnotoxic Laser just trying to keep him asleep. And there's a Juniper. Yeah, if Kyle can grab the energy to be able to X-Ball this turn, he will be knocking out that Yveltal of Kyle's. And Kyle actually missed an energy drop last turn, which is unfortunate. But he does have the DCE in hand, as we see, so he definitely can get that Bouffalant up if he needs to. And that Bouffalant, and the Bouffalant's going to take a double colorless with it. So not only is Kyle going to take 2 prizes here and kind of completely obliterate Trenton's board, but he's also going to be able to do it with a non-EX Pokemon. We see an Ultra Ball from Kyle. It looks like he's just going to discard those 2 Float Stones. Yeah, not much use to those anymore now that he's off the Garbodor plan, as we spoke about earlier. I mean, I guess even if he wanted a Garbodor now.
But he pulls out an Yveltal.
I did see he has a Dark Patch in his hand too, so he can definitely get some things rolling, even after missing the energy drop. Yeah, and he's just going to choose to Y-Cyclone, it looks like. I mean, I guess absolutely he can just Evil Ball as well to get the knockout. And yeah, that's actually fine because there's no defense from Trenton right now. After that Evil Ball, and this is another Dark Patch by Kyle, just absolutely building up that Yveltal. And the thing about Yveltal is that this card gets so much more powerful when you know your opponent just has nothing, as all cards do. But it scales so much better than most cards. You know, there's a lot of cards out there that it doesn't matter if your opponent's winning or losing; they're just as good as they're going to be. But Kyle can reliably sit back on this Yveltal. There's not a whole lot that Trenton can do, and then if the Yveltal starts to get in trouble, Kyle can just Y-Cyclone off of it and save his resources. It's one of the strongest things about the card.
And we really saw just kind of the kings of the format, Mewtwo of formats long ago.
The Ghost of Pokemon Past.
Yes.
Ghost of Pokemon Present. Very true. And there's an end of 2. 2 for Kyle, 4 for Trenton, and that is one of the things that can kind of slow Kyle down here. But with Trenton only drawing 4 cards, it could be pretty rough. And I think really what Trenton's going to need to get back in this game is, let's count up the damage on that Yveltal. So he's doing 120 now to that Landorus with Evil Ball. So I think, and is there any way that Trenton can get the knockout with a Mewtwo? No, I don't think so. I don't think there's actually any outs there. So,
but he's playing down the Kyurem, so we might see him try to promote that to try and just wall the Yveltal.
Yeah, he currently has no way of retreating, unfortunately. His hand is 2 Ultra Balls and a Silver Bangle, which seems like an odd choice in a deck that mostly runs EXs.
Yes.
Have we seen a non-EX from Trenton yet?
Well, we saw the Trubbish, but I doubt that's pounding anything.
And so we see Kyle hit a random receiver on end 2, which is pretty lucky. He does reveal the Darkrai, but he also reveals an N. So the N isn't really going to shuffle his deck, even though it was only a second card. And the N isn't really where he wants to be here. Getting the random receiver was pretty lucky, but putting himself in this position now, what's going to happen is that he has 3 cards in hand now, and he can play the N, and he'll get rid of 1 card from his deck, and that N, he'll just be able to discard it and get rid of it. But the problem is that he's putting 2 cards and then drawing 2 cards, so he's not really doing a whole lot for himself, especially because those Ns can be used as resources when Trenton takes a few more prizes if the game gets to that.
Yes.
which it very well may not. We see a Y-Cyclone by Kyle moving the Dark Energy to that Bouffant.
It's a very conservative play.
Oh, definitely. I think when you're so far ahead like this, there's not really much reason not to play like that. You know, he's forcing Trenton to have a way to retreat here. If he doesn't, he can just retreat to the Bouffant as Kyle shows him and get the Gold Breaker knockout. So Kyle Puka Sucevich will take game 1 over Trenton here. Trenton's last name, we'll look that up, give him full credit. As always, On the Bubble is brought to you by Top Cut Central. Check out topcutcentral.com. Buy one of the lovely playmats you see on your screen. We are actually at the local Top Cut Central event in beautiful Madison, Wisconsin. So this event's run by Top Cut Central. There's OTB and Top Cut Central logos everywhere. It's good to be on your home turf. Let me find that information for you guys. Trenton Philippi. So Trenton Philippi falls in game 1 to Kyle Sucevich. And it's going to be interesting. I think the main crux of this game and what will really seal it up for either player is what is in Trenton's deck. We've only seen Mewtwo, which is a strictly worse version of Yveltal. We've seen Terrakion, which Yveltal resists. We've seen Landorus EX, which Yveltal resists.
Kyurem.
We have seen Kyurem, which I don't think is really where you want to be, and we've seen Garbodor, which is pretty much irrelevant. So I think there is a world in which Kyle gets a pretty poor setup. Trenton, especially knowing that he gets to go first now, gets a pretty fast one and can kind of just overpower Kyle with his big basics. But generally, I think I give this matchup to Kyle simply because he
has the tools. He really has the tools and the resources in his deck to just remove anything that Trenton does.
Especially given those enhanced hammers. We see Trenton play Rainbow Energy as well as double colorless. So those enhanced hammers are going to be a huge game. And I just feel like Yveltal is just a much more flexible card than a lot of these big basics. Yveltal, of course, is a big basic in itself. But, you know, most of the big basics that Trenton's playing just can't really compete with that level of versatility. We saw Y-Cyclone basically win that game for Kyle. And although I definitely think Trenton has a chance, I definitely am going to give my prediction to Kyle taking game 2. Looks like Kyle's going to start with a non-EX Yveltal. Have you seen that card played a lot, David? What do you think of that?
I mean, it's very similar to Thunderous EX. I like it. I like Oblivion Wing. It's a great starter. I don't think it's as strong right now, but I really can't say. I have not played with it, so my opinion is relatively uninformed.
That's fair. I've never been a huge fan of the card, but I do think it has a lot of versatility. And Kyle's going to bench that Trubbish because he basically has nothing else. It looks like his hand is a bunch of energies. I believe he has a second Muscle Band in hand, but that may be Professor Juniper. Yeah, that is a Professor Juniper. He's just debating playing that because he's getting rid of 2 double colorless and a Muscle Band, which is never really want to be. You got to attach that energy there, of course. Kyle might have hesitated attaching that energy because having in the discard pile fuels Dark Patch. But yeah, it looks like Kyle's going to go ahead. Decides to Juniper. Would you have Juniper there, David?
I might have given myself another turn, but I don't think it's a bad play. I think he still wants to get the upper hand on this deck. He doesn't have as much to fear, knowing what he knows about what's been out in the previous game, but I think it's still a safe play to try and set up your own field.
Definitely, especially because there's definitely a world where Kyle just draws another Juniper.
Or, and that's even worse.
Yeah, or another DCE or something, and just really doesn't. It's going to make it worse for himself. And discarding 2 double colorless is not exactly where you want to be, but isn't the worst in the world either. And we do see Kyle got the Ultra Ball, discarding 2 Dark Energy there, which is exactly what you want to do. So he gets the Laser Heads, and then Trenton's Kyurem EX stays asleep. And there's a Skyla. Another slow hand from Trenton. No other Pokemon, I don't believe, and just a bunch of energy, and that's Skyla. And it'll be interesting to see whether he chooses to Skyla for a Juniper or a supporter of some sort, or just get a basic Pokemon. I don't think the Kyurem EX, let's see, it has 10 damage on it now, 20 going back into Kyle's turn, potentially 50 if Kyle gets a Burbank. It would take a bit for Kyle to really knock out that Kyurem EX, but it looks like Trenton's going to go on a safe play and get a basic Pokemon, but I gotta feel like that's going to hurt him so much because as long as I'm correct and my view of his hand was correct, he doesn't have another supporter in hand. He's getting a Reshiram Black-White. That's the Legendary Treasures copy.
Yes, it is.
It's an interesting card, but you don't really see that a lot. I think a lot of Kyle's deck, a lot of these big basics decks are not, they're very linear and they're very aggressive, but in a way they're reactionary to the format, because like the Reshiram is clearly not a very inherently powerful card, but is versus the Virizion Genesect decks. Or, the Kyurem, again, is not a very inherently powerful card, but can be good versus Landorus EX. Mm-hmm. And just there's a lot of things like that I think that Trenton is relying on. And I just don't know how I feel about that play. He's going to put himself in a pretty rough position here, having no supporters, and I think he could have survived this turn pretty easily. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Kyle's outs to getting a knockout here pretty high. But it doesn't look like he's going to get one off that Juniper. I see a whole bunch of energy, a Float Stone, a Hypnotoxic Laser, which is currently redundant. One of the interesting things that people often overlook about the non-EX Yveltal is its Oblivion Wing attack can attach energy from the discard pile to any type of Pokemon, not just Dark. People like to say it's just a Dark Patch on a stick, Dark Patch is 30, but it actually has a little bit more options than Dark Patch. We do see Kyle just put it on the Yveltal, of course. Mm-hmm. No real reason not to just build up your best attacker. And the top deck for the turn is a Muscle Band from Trenton, so
alright, for all the players walking around,
it's pretty rough.
We're taking silence for side events in the back corner.
There's a retreat.
Waving, looking for you guys.
I'm just not a fan of Outragers in this format. They are, like you said, too reactionary. They just don't respond well to threats.
Just saying.
Yeah, I feel like back in the days before one-hit KOs were so easy, maybe back in the days when these cards first came out, they were very, very good because they kind of put your opponent in a position where they said, if you attack it, it's going to do more damage later, and if you don't attack it, I can use my Blue Flare attack or my whatever the attack is on Zekrom. But yeah, now let's see. So Kyle's actually getting a knockout this turn. Yeah, so Kyle just very, very easily responding there, and
this is the issue. He would not have attacked had he not been able to do that.
Definitely. And here's a top deck, and it's a Terrakion from Trenton. So Trenton just drawing completely dead. And that might actually be the game, because Kyle can do 120 right now. And there's the retreat. Sorry, I forgot the Kyurem had the Float Stone on it. And there's a draw step from Kyle, brings an N. This is definitely not a card he's going to play anytime soon. And there's a Burbank City Gym. And wow, that's Terrakion is going to get knocked out if Kyle does choose to Evil Ball this turn. And I think what Kyle's doing here is pretty important. He's obviously just getting more energy so he can attach more later, but he's also just thinning his deck out because Trenton's optimal draw here is just a copy of N. Mm-hmm. And so if Kyle has a bunch of cards like Professor's Letter and Energy in his deck that he doesn't want, after he gets ahead, 4 or 5, or after he gets ahead 2 or 3 prizes, it can be very, very hard for him to draw out of it. So he's just maximizing his chances there. And I think if you're Kyle, you just attack here, take the knockout. Don't need to play anything. You could argue to play the float stone, but sorry, that's a random receiver in his hand on a float stone. And there's the knockout. Kyle draws a Trubbish. And top deck is a Mewtwo. Trenton's going to go ahead and hatch that Muscle Band, it looks like. Unfortunate draws for Trenton here. He's going to do the same thing he did last turn, I assume, and just retreat into that Mewtwo. Pass the turn back. Buy himself a few more turns here.
How unfortunate.
And there's a random receiver from Kyle, and it automatically hits a Juniper there. And that's going to be great for Kyle. Was that an Ultra Ball?
Ultra Ball, discarding a Trubbish and an N.
Yeah, like I said, those Ns are just not something he's going to want to play now, or basically ever in this game. I do believe that, well, if Kyle gets a DCE, and, which, mind you, he has discarded 2 of them, and a laser, he will get the knockout on this Mewtwo. But, there's the laser. But if he doesn't, I think, so he will still have, Trenton will still have a few more draw steps to get out of this, but it just might not be enough. There's another Ultra Ball again. Kyle just thinning out his deck, getting rid of those ends, and an Yveltal EX. Getting the 3rd Yveltal EX. And Dark Patch from Kyle. Looks like he's going to look through his discard pile a bit. Confirm there is a Dark Energy in there. I think there's only the 1 left. Dark Patch on that Darkrai. Setting up the Darkrai here because assuming that he's setting up the Darkrai there because now he's in Night Spear range of knocking out basically whatever he wants, especially if that Kyurem with the energy stays in play. Because a Kyurem, and there's a draw step, and it's a Juniper. The last possible turn. But the problem is that if the Kyurem becomes active, Kyle wins via Night Spear. If the Kyurem doesn't become active, that Mewtwo is going to be knocked out by a poison. Mm-hmm. And Kyle, I think at this point is just a lock to win the game. I'm not really sure what else Trenton can do. He may have a few more draw steps depending on what's in his hand, but there's no way to search Pokemon out of his hand, right?
Not that I can tell.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's unfortunate for Trenton. I don't actually think there's a way for him.
Oh, that's a Scramble Switch.
Yeah, the Scramble Switch won't do anything. He can Catcher. He can put Pokemon Catcher on the Bouffalon and try and essentially not immediately lose, which looks like he's going to have to do, considering playing it here. But yeah, it's just an unfortunate series of draws for Trenton. And Trenton double checking, he doesn't really have any outs besides this Pokemon Catcher. He can attach the DCE. I guess it doesn't even work either. I think his play here, there's a Scramble Switch. But the unfortunate part about that, again, is that this Mewtwo is within knockout range.
With the Night Spear, right?
With the Night Spear. Even from the bench, Night Spear, of course, does 90 damage to the active and 30 to the bench. And I don't know what Kyurem's attack is off the top of my head. Let me look that up for you, but I have a feeling there isn't anything too relevant because Trenton spent a lot of time thinking about that.
It looks like it was just an Outrage.
I also don't know if wait, it was an Outrage?
I believe so. I believe that's a fighting energy on the Kyurem.
So it does 110. Is that what that Kyurem does, though? The first attack is Outrage for sure.
Yes, it does 30 plus number.
Because if it's doing like this 30 plus.
Yes.
Okay, so it currently has 80 damage on it then.
I believe so. I can't tell. The dice are a little blurry on the screen.
And that should be a win for Kyle. Yeah, there's the Hypnotoxic Laser. He should be able to retreat to the Darkrai and Night Spear for all 4 of his prizes. See, Kyle knows that was kind of a disappointing game. And Kyle Sucevich advances to 3-0 here at the Madison, Wisconsin Regional Championships. My name is Kenny Wisdom here at David Reichenberger, and we will be right back.